There we go.
Good evening and welcome to Thursday with Jamila on Blessed Beats Radio. Guys, we are so excited. Thursday, as you all know, is my favorite day of the week. We are looking forward to tonight's chat. Of course, we have the lovely Shatera Jones.
Hey guys!
You know, she's just become a staple feature, so I think she's really the co-host. We just, hadn't really, I guess, made it official.
Because I didn't know. That's why it's not been official. Because I didn't know.
I mean, she's always here, so I just kind of feel like, well, maybe it's her show too. Should we call it Thursdays with Shatera and Jamila and Shatera? I don't know, but she's always here, and we love having her. Thank y'all for who are tuning in on Facebook. We're gonna give you guys a couple more minutes. How y'all like that music playing in the background? Smooth.
She is hilarious. Thanks, Jonathan.
It's smooth, huh?
That is smooth.
I like that music.
Listen, guys, we want you guys to interact with us. Like, I don't want this to seem like we're just talking to y'all and you don't talk back. So ask your questions, make comments. We can see your comments. So yeah, join in with us. This is our Thursdays.
Our Thursdays. Happy Thursdays. Well, while our Facebook audience is getting logged in, I want to talk to you guys about some things that I have coming up. So, as we mentioned on the last episode, I will be speaking at the Spring Into Your Freedom retreat that is happening in Webster, Texas. That's coming up pretty quickly. It's April 5th and the 6th. Carmen Welch is the host for this event, and I'm really excited about it. I like the fact that she goes out and tries to make it a communal effort.
Right.
She goes out and gets the women who are the forgotten. And I appreciate her for that. And I think it's going to be a really good topic. We're talking about springing into your freedom. And I think people have a hard time with that typically because they're not really identifying the things that are holding them hostage. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then I mentioned last show that we had another upcoming engagement, and I am proud to announce that I will be your keynote speaker at the Women's Business Expo. That's being hosted by Angela Ware. She reached out to me and I was so excited to be able to accept the opportunity. That will be here in Houston at the Buffalo Soldiers National Museum. And that date is April 13th. The cost is $10 per person. Like, grab your friends, meet us there. It is a worthwhile cause. We have a full day of shopping and things like that. So I think it's going to be really, really cool. So if you have time and you're in the area, please plan to attend. And we have some stuff that I have on the brain for our next Brunch of Girls event. So I want to do something a little different in the summer.
Right. I'm looking forward to I want to do
summer. I want to do something in the summer this year. Something a little grown, a little jazzy. I don't know. And then October will be our 5th year brunch, so we have to do something special, amazing for that. So be on the lookout for that. So we are gonna get started. Y'all ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Ready. Okay, so I titled this Rejection. Who, me? Fear. Nah. And the reason I do that is because I feel like we don't really hone in on what the rejected person looks like. We have this idea of what he or she looks like, and we're not being honest about it. I'm going to give what I feel it is, but I want to kick it over to you, Shatera. And when you think of the rejected person, what does that person look like?
You and I?
Yep.
Everyone has been rejected. Everyone deals with rejection. It is a normal thing in life. We learn rejection at an early age. Some of us, kindergarten. Like, I remember being in kindergarten vaguely.
Kind of, sort of.
I vaguely remember being in kindergarten, but I do remember this one girl who I wanted to play with this little group of girls. Their names didn't even matter because I do remember their names actually too. And they wouldn't let me play with them, and I was just like, I mean, who doesn't? I could not wrap my mind around. Like, we're all 5. I just wanted to play. You guys had a game going. I wanted to join the game. It was no, you couldn't play. I was shunned, and so I learned rejection at an early age. But what I don't think, so everyone deals with rejection. People that are rejected look just like you and I. The issue is how you deal with your rejection.
Yeah.
That's
it.
How you deal with it at a young age when you're first introduced to rejection kind of determines how you are now dealing with rejection as you get older.
Unless you've looked at the character flaws or the traits that you are exuding when you're rejected. Like, you continue those patterns until you maybe take an assessment of how you're handling it. Mm-hmm. So, like, at some point, we learn that, or we should, let me not say we should be learning a better means to cope when rejection comes to our front door. But if you're not, then yeah, you're still replaying those same character traits every time you're rejected. Like, we start to take this assessment of what we aren't and why we were deserving of their rejection.
Why we're not good enough.
Instead of saying, I just wasn't for them. Mm-hmm. And that's where I want to spend a good bit of time tonight. But you mentioned on the last episode, you were talking about how the woman becomes her man's shadow, her identity, and you could not stand this whole concept of now she is Mrs. her husband's name and she has no identity and she's lost herself in that.
That drives me nuts. Like, I hate to hear it. It's because it insinuates that her identity is now tied to him.
And him only?
And him only. You become, even, let's just say we take the husband out of it. Let's just say, even when people refer to me as, oh, Jasmine's mom, I am quick to say, hi, Shatera. Because that's who I was before I became Jasmine's mom. Don't wrap me up in that title. And I think as women, we take on that so quickly. Now, I'm not saying not to be proud of who you're married to, not to be proud to be his wife. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you get so engulfed in him and you lose your identity. Right. I have heard so many women say, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't know what
Do you feel like it's a form of self-rejection?
What do you mean?
When people no longer speak to their own identity. Let's use this particular example.
Okay.
Do you think that at the point where who I am is a byproduct of what I'm connected to, do you feel like it's a form of self-rejection?
I mean, it could be. It could be.
Okay. I
don't know that they're rejecting themselves. I think that society, I don't know what, society kind of, that's the role we play. It's like when you get married, you are now Mrs. whatever. And that's fine, but I'm still my own person. And my self-worth, that's what we were talking about a couple weeks ago, my self-worth cannot be tied into my current circumstance or my current situation, or because what happens is when you start tying your self-worth in your children and your husband and your marriage and all your career, when you lose those things, you then lose yourself.
Right.
Because your self-worth was tied into it.
I agree with that. I brought that up, you guys, because I told y'all last week that I was going to come back to it, and I made good on my promises, and I felt like it had a lot to do with what we're going to talk about. And the reason I asked, do you feel like it's a form of self-rejection, is because there are times where we may stop being and who we know we are to be, and the things we know we're supposed to do, we cease to do them sometimes because we're so engulfed in the agenda of something else or someone else, that we don't look inward enough to continue to be who we were created to be. And so I think that is sometimes a byproduct of us needing to be affirmed, needing to be validated, needing to feel accounted for, in a sense, that we're willing to table who we are so that we can be engulfed in something that we feel is adding value to us. And so tonight, one of the things that I wanted to talk about when it came to rejection, and the reason why I asked what and who do you feel like rejection resembles, yes, it's you and I, but we also need to talk about like how we were created, how the human race was developed, and we were created to be givers and receivers of love. And when that doesn't happen, there's a level of rejection that we begin to feel because we're created to be givers and receivers of love. And when that basic need is not being met, we start to think that there's something wrong with us. And sometimes we'll start rejecting who we are and start evolving into something different because
to please the other person.
Get what we need. And so it's like, I'm going to cease to be who I was created to be because that person is not measuring up and is not being deemed worthy enough to be the recipient of what I need. So to get what I need, I'm going to become something different.
Right.
And that's a form of self-rejection because
Yes,
now
it is.
you've said who I was isn't good enough. The detail that God put into creating me wasn't sufficient enough. I know you're all knowing, Jesus, but you got it wrong this time. So I'm going to create and evolve into something different to get what I need. And that is one of the most dreaded realities that so many people are living, but they won't say it.
But it's also a hard one because there's a fine line with you have to have growth. You're going to experience growth. There are things about you that are going to change inevitably. Well, there are things about you that should change for sure. But knowing the difference, knowing when change is necessary and knowing when I'm changing when it's unnecessary.
Right.
So, Facebook, I want to ask you guys a question because I want you guys to talk to us. How do you know when change is necessary versus you changing for whomever you're with or changing to fit into certain situations? Like, how do you know the difference?
Right. And we're going to give them a minute to answer that question. And while they're coming up with their responses, I want you to speak to relational rejection. Like that time where you felt like you needed to change because they needed you to be something different for them. Because, that happens.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
It happens a lot.
It's happened in my life a lot because I can be a lot of things. I can be, I typically have different groups of friends, and what I am for them may not be what I am for another group of friends, because with your groups, you are, wherever you fit in, that's just kind of the mold you fit in. But I think there is one time in particular that I had a friend, and what she needed me to be wasn't who I was. It didn't align with me. Like, I didn't feel good about it because I was like, I'm not this person. Like, what you're needing me to entertain you in or to go with you to, or it's not who I am. And I tried to be like, girl, I'm out. I'm ride or die. Like, let's go. She is not ride or die, okay? Like, at all.
She rides with questions.
I ride and I have questions. I need to know where we're going. How long we gonna be there? Who's gonna be there? That's important. Are you gonna feed me on the way?
Lord,
all these questions. And so there was a part of me that felt like I struggled with it because I valued the friendship, but not enough to. I struggled with it because I wanted to save the friendship, but I felt like if I went down that road, you know how sometimes you go down a road and it can take you further than you wanted to go or further than you meant to go, and that was one of those roads for me. And I was like, I'm gonna have to back this all the way up. But I did. The rejection part of it felt like, man, I'm not. Like, why is what I'm offering not good enough? Like, why do I have to do that?
Why do I have to become?
Where are your other friends? Like, get them to do it. Like, why do I have to do it? And so then I felt like, well, man, if I can't be a good friend to her, then am I a good friend to anybody?
Right. We take an isolated issue
Oh, girl, and
and blanket it over everything. It's like, well, this really was just befitting to this situation, but because it has to be a me thing, something had to have been what I generated. Oh, now this is a me thing. It's not a them thing. One of the questions that we just got through on Facebook. Go ahead.
He says, Jonathan says, change is necessary when growth is stagnant, which is so true. Change is necessary. But how do you, when you're changing, okay, so let's say right now your growth isn't stagnant, but yet you're changing. Like, how do you know the difference? How do you know when your growth is stagnant and then there needs to be change versus, changing because someone else, maybe somebody else is growing and they're changing. That doesn't mean you need to change at this moment because it's not your season. Like, it's your change season is not here yet. And oftentimes we start changing because we see them changing. So how do we know when we don't need to, like, it's not our time? Like, how can we tell the difference?
I would say I think it has to do with having a vision for the relationship. And this may seem real lofty, but when you have a vision for a relationship, and the people that are involved in the relationship subscribe to the vision of the relationship. And we're saying that, this is the path that we want to take. And the path that we want to take, we're no longer making progress toward the expected end. Then that's when we need to take a look at what is causing our growth to be stunted. Like, why aren't we getting over this hump? What do we need to maybe consider doing differently? And I think it has to be a mutually agreed upon decision to propel forward, because what I think happens is we'll start to rationalize that in our mind, thinking, well, this is what we need for us, but the other person's not really clear on what that looks like because it hadn't been communicated. So we go blazing down the trail, leaving the counterpart behind, and then we're like, you can come on back because we're not in this together. You know what I mean? What was the follow-up?
He said, by your environment.
Yeah,
that's true.
I mean, if it's spring and there's nothing blossoming, did the seed get planted properly? I mean, did we put it in good soil? And the one thing we talked about before was understanding the season your relationship is in, right? And knowing how to weather the seasons of the relationship. Because in order to serve an individual well and not feel rejected in the relationship, you have to know, one, what season is that person in on an individual level, and what season are we in collectively? Because when people go into a winter season, they're going to be more introverted, more introspective. A lot of what they're doing is kind of like in silence, and it's not about them rejecting you, but they're doing some internal work, right? It's a dormant season for them. Doesn't have anything to do with how they feel about you, but it is something that they have to work through internally.
Right.
But how do you do that properly and still serve a person well in a relationship? Because I don't think we oftentimes give people the opportunity to live through their season.
Right.
Because we have an unmet expectation. Like, I know you're in winter, but our relationship is in summer, so we should be out having fun. We should be doing this. We should be doing this. And you're like a dark cloud. And I want the sun to shine. Can you get your sun together? You know what I mean? Like, it happens so often in relationships, and then we start to feel rejected, and we're like, well, there's something wrong with me, or I feel like I'm serving you and you're not serving me, and I feel like I'm getting the short end of the stick, and this feels very parasitic instead of symbiotic. And it's like, no, understand where people are in the relationship. I wrote this quote, and I think it kind of like hones in on this a little bit. Dharius Daniels said, people will accept you for who you are while rejecting you for who you are not. Like, I'll accept all of who you are, but I'm going to reject you for who you're not. And that who you're not could be, you're not serving me in this capacity, so I reject you for that. Or you won't compromise with me in this area, I'll reject you for that. And it's like, it's either all or nothing.
But then you're gonna have it throughout your whole life.
Yeah.
That's inevitable. With work, with friends, with family, they're going to reject what they don't need from you, and also what they may need that you don't have in supply.
So I'm glad that you just said that. Okay, so I have a bunch of notes. We may get to them, we may not, because this is how we do. But I heard something this week, and it just kind of really struck a chord with me.
Okay.
Because it's like, everybody is on this. Let me not say everybody. I've seen quite a few individuals on this rant about the enemies that they have and the tables that God is preparing for them, and people don't know what I went through, and you can't sit at my table in celebration if you didn't go through me with my hard trial, and da 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 da. Like, it's wearing me thin. But the thing that I wanted people to understand in that was, listen, sometimes it's not the enemy, it's the inner me that needs to be addressed. Because the only people that rile you up or make you feel an emotional response to what they're saying are the people that are speaking the truth that you secretly whisper to yourself. They're not rejecting you, they're just reminding you of the areas that you feel a deficiency in, or you have rejected yourself in, and now you are actually lashing out on them and giving them energy that you probably should be devoting to yourself. Like, get the plank out of your own eye before you acknowledge the splinter in somebody else's. Like, they're really not after you, but they are reminders of the areas that maybe you still need to go through some healing in. Like, quite possibly they may have just been a blessing to you because they reminded you of something that maybe you thought you were over.
Right.
But you're not.
But it goes back to what we're talking about. They're feeling rejected, and when you feel rejected, you get offensive. Like, not offensive. You get offended. You put your guard up, and so now you're defensive. Is what I was trying to say. You're defensive about everything. It's, who are you to tell me? Like, it's because that they're feeling rejected. Not that people are intentionally trying to reject them. Which leads me to my next question. How do you guys handle your rejection? Because that's important. What you do after you're rejected is very important.
Vital.
And it can be a self-esteem crusher, or you can keep your self-esteem intact. Like, either way, it can go either way. Because I've been in situations where, when I was a lot younger, where I would feel rejected and my self-esteem would suffer. And I'd be like, ugh, who doesn't want me? I mean, really, like, what? I mean, I'm saying,
okay,
I'm pretty awesome, I think. So who are you to know? And so, I would feel a little like, ugh, wait, now, hold up, wait a minute. So how do you handle, I'm asking you, Facebook, how do you handle rejection? Like, how do you move forward past rejection in a healthy way? And while they're answering this, I'm going to ask you, how do you handle rejection?
I'll be honest and tell you that it's been a process. It really has. I actually had to do some hard work to get to a healthy place to respond well to rejection, because I used to take it all in. I used to own it. I'd be like, oh, I'm deficient in this area. Oh, I need to do better at trying to please people. Oh, I need to say yes more. Oh, I need to scale back more. Maybe I'm too forward. Maybe my personality is too abrasive. And I started to make all of that about me. And what I realized was I had an esteem issue. And I had a fear issue, and I've done research, right? So the common byproducts of rejection are fear and pride. And I have very low self-esteem, and then people would say, well, I don't have a pride issue because I have low self-esteem, and I like to beg to differ, because pride is not the opposite of humility. It's about the thing that you absorbed yourself into, whether you think highly of yourself or lowly of yourself. You have now made yourself the object of your affection. It's a pride issue. And so I started to feel like I had to polish up and be more perfectionist, or be a perfectionist, or be more approachable, or whatever. And it was bad for me. Like, I would refrain from dealing with people. I wouldn't go to certain settings. Like, if I felt like I was going to be there and it was going to be an issue and I wasn't going to be good enough, like, I stopped availing myself to opportunities that I could have flourished in, because I felt like I wasn't going to measure up. And it took a long time for that. But the one thing that I did realize was I accepted my limitations. And at the point where I realized I'm human, and my humanity is only going to get me so far,
Right.
I can take time to enjoy who I am and celebrate that, as opposed to every time somebody says something, it being a dagger and I have to feel like I'm inadequate or deficient, or I'm just not meant to serve you in this season of your life. There may come a time where I serve you. It just is now. And I don't have to feel bad about that. Please go find the tribe that's intended to serve you well.
Oh,
Amen, and God bless you.
Because if I don't serve you in the season, I'm never serving you.
But you know what? I couldn't do that.
Typically.
I couldn't do that because I've seen it come back where I wasn't the person that needed to serve them in the season. What I had to say wasn't befitting to them in the season. I didn't have what they needed.
Right.
But when they got to a season that I lived through, that I actually had the battle wounds for, and what I had to say spoke to their life, I was meant to serve them in that season. And I want people, I'm going to pause right there because I feel that really strongly. Stop thinking that you are a rejected foe because they don't hear you today.
Right.
That you don't serve them today. It's just in your time. There's so many voices available to people at this particular season. So if you're not the voice, if you're not the leading voice in their season, don't take offense to that. Continue to be you, because you're serving somebody. You're just not serving them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I want to read some of these comments because I've been looking at them and they're pretty interesting. So, change happens in tandem in a relationship. As one person changes, age, weight, family, dynamics, career, etc., the other person in the relationship has to decide if they're willing to adjust to the movement. Seasons don't always align. Oh, that's so true. So
is that my husband? Because
Yes.
that sounds so Aaron Hinkson. That sounds
That
so
was from Aaron.
Okay.
And that's true. But I feel like a lot of times we get lost in this change in relationships because when the person isn't changing at our speed, we feel like that's when you hear, oh, we just grew apart.
No, you didn't.
Well, no, you didn't grow apart. One changed faster than the other, or one is a little slower with the change, and then y'all are not, perfectly aligned. And I will agree with you, Aaron. No marriage is ever perfectly aligned at the same time the entire marriage. It just does not work that way.
Right.
And so you're right. It is a personal decision to adjust to the movement that you're seeing.
Yep. Can I want to chime in on that, because I also think that what one has to understand is it's a choice. It's a deliberate decision, right? To say that this is, because you have to remember that there are two people in relationship, no matter what the relationship is, and each person has a charted path, right? And so what we don't want to do is be the inhibitor, because we don't know how to support or serve someone through their individual charted path. Right? And that's why, again, I think it's imperative that you understand the purpose and the vision of every relationship that you are in, because even when those changes are happening, you still remember what the end goal is, and so you continue to still serve each other well. Is it easy? Absolutely not. You and I had a conversation about it last year. I said, listen, are you still my best friend or are you a side friend? What is happening right now? Because I don't feel like I'm getting what I need from you. I don't feel like I'm serving you well in this friendship. Like, what is happening? And then you have to be in relationship with people where you can say that to. Like, I need to be able to say, bruh, did you call me this morning? No. You got a new best friend? What's happening? Right? But then you also have to be the person who realizes that, whoa, am I making this all about me and not considering the other person in the relationship? That's where a lot of things sometimes get misaligned too. You stop considering the other person and what they need. You just got wrapped up in what you needed.
Exactly.
And now you're like, oh, you're rejecting me. No, you're being overbearing.
Well, part of that is because we're a selfish nature. We're selfish. It's just, as human beings, we tend to be a little selfish. But it's true, and I feel like with friendships, and specifically with friendships, there has to be a way that you can communicate with your friend when something is not, because there was a time where me and her were in this we were in a weird place. I was in a weird place. She was fine and normal, but I was not fine and normal. I had a lot of things going on in my life at that time, and I just couldn't, I didn't feel like it. Shoot.
At all. Let me explain.
I didn't feel
at
like,
all.
I didn't feel, I could not give it the energy. I could not, I'm like, girl, I see you calling, but I don't feel like it. I can't. And there was a moment, I felt it, she felt it, and instead of her taking and feeling like I am rejecting her friendship and not wanting her to be a part of my life and what I was going through, she called. And because she called and we had the conversation, it allowed me to open up and say, it's not you, it's really me. I don't know how to tell you to be a friend in this season of my life. I don't know how to bring you in. I think this is just something I'm going to have to get past,
right,
and then I will make a full circle and come back around. The great thing about our friendship is she never walked away. She didn't say, you know what, she rejected me, I'm gonna go be a friend to somebody else. Because eventually, and this happens throughout the years of our friendship. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's her. It's just what happens. And I think when you're able to not take that rejection personal, then you're able to keep your relationships. You start to build lasting relationships.
Yeah.
It's when you don't handle it the proper way. Tell yourself what you have to tell yourself. I have learned that for me, with me being rejected, I will quickly say, oh, it's not me, it's you.
Yes, she will. She
like,
is owning no part of it.
You reject me, it ain't me, because I'm great. Like, I am an imperfect person, but if there's some things that I'm just not going to change. I am who I am. And so I'm just going to say, well, it's you. Maybe I'm not the person for her. Or maybe, I'm not the girl for this guy. This guy's looking for this. Boo-boo, please go find that, because she's not it. And it's fine. I have to laugh and say, you know what, it's okay. And I think the moment when people cannot take the rejection to heart, then they'll be okay. Like, your self-esteem isn't tarnished.
Your self-esteem,
I'm sorry,
intact. I said that all wrong. Ooh. Your self-esteem should never be built on the acceptance of another person. Your self-esteem has to be built on self-worth. Who are you underneath all of it? I put a post up this week and I said, is the real you lying somewhere dormant under the identity that you're afraid to let go of? Mm-hmm. Like, come on, people. Like, if everything that to feel worth it, to feel acceptable, I have to have somebody be like, yeah, girl, you are amazing. If you don't learn how to reach around and pat your own back
on the back.
Listen, say amen for yourself. Like, at some point you have to say, here's the point I want to make. When it comes to self-rejection, at some point you have to decide that I am capable and I have been graced to be the person that I choose to show up in the form of. Mm-hmm. Okay? I am graced to be Jamila. There is an extension of grace that is given specifically to me for me being me. I don't have Shatera grace. I don't walk in that anointing. Okay? I am Jamila. But right. The thing that you have to hone in on is when you really lock in and decide that I am graced to be me, it is such a liberating experience, because you stop feeling indebted to expectations of other things, and you start locking into and you get into your rhythm and you find this path that you're to walk, and there's clarity. Mm-hmm. You see better, you feel better, and then when you start seeing you better, it frees you up to see other people better. Right. The main reason why some of us feel so repulsed by other people is because we don't even see them right. Because we're looking through them through skewed lenses. And I would really ask that we go get our spiritual eye exams on an annual basis. Mm-hmm. And wash those lenses and update your vision to 20/20 vision in the spirit realm. Because the reason you can't see people so clearly is because you don't know who you are, number one. So you don't see you right, number two. And so you're looking at them through your broken pieces. And it's unfair. Right. It's so, you're cutting them. Right. You're bruising them. You are cutting off divine relationships. Because you won't go get your ass checked.
Right. So, Jonathan, you posted a comment and you said you can't give love if you're not getting it. And I want you to explain what you mean by that.
I might have an argument with that.
Yeah, I definitely do
I have
too.
an argument
but
to
before I go down that road, not an argument. I may have to disagree with you just a little, but I want to know before we go down that road, I want to know what you mean by that. You can't give love if you are not getting it.
I don't agree with that.
And then Mr. Aaron says the yardstick that you use to measure yourself should not be another person. It should be those guidelines established by God. He's the rejector. That you should concern yourself with because of who he is.
Is that Paul? Is that my father-in-law?
That is,
yes. That was Aaron Hingston Jr., y'all.
Yes.
That is Paul. That's my
Yes.
father-in-law. That was wisdom. Y'all heard it? Wisdom.
Yes.
Wisdom.
You should not use someone else to measure yourself against, which we do that a lot.
We don't. I feel like the person you should measure yourself against is the person you were yesterday.
Oh, that's good.
Say
that again.
The person that you should measure yourself against is the person that you were yesterday. How can I be better than I was yesterday? Not how can I be better than him or her, but how can I be better than I was yesterday? How can I show up and be more fully present in the things that I'm committing myself to? How do I sharpen my skills? How do I, if I know I have an attitude problem, how do I work on that and maybe not snap at all the people on 45 today? Maybe just 2. Like, give yourself some goals to reach. You know what I mean?
Right.
Some mile markers to reach. Because really, when you get to heaven, God is not asking you, so did you outwit Shadera?
That's never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen.
But
whoa, wait, that was shade. I was talking about Jesus was never gonna have to ask me that because I was not in agreement. Thank you for that shade.
So Jonathan says love tank has to be on full. If you aren't being filled, you can't overflow on others.
Okay,
I'm
gonna take that, and I'm gonna say you're probably gonna be like whatever, but this is my response to that. First and foremost, God is love. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we are created in the image of God. And if we are not first allowing God to pour his love into us and be filled with his love, first and foremost, but we're expecting it to come from another imperfect person whose love tank might be a little sketchy, we're putting a demand on a person that we should be first submitting to God. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion of that. Now, do I feel like in relationship we need to be tending to one another? We need to make sure that we know the love language of the people that we're in relationship with and serve them in that way? Yes. But do I feel like you can't give love if you're not the recipient of love? No, I don't. I don't agree with that because I feel like love is a choice. I get to choose to love you, and the love that I'm giving you is not contingent on what you give me. It is a choice because I choose to love you. You matter to me in this way, and I'm going to choose to love you because what if you're in a season where you have just enough energy to take your next breath? Mm-hmm. Can I love you through that? Can I serve you through that? That's my take on that one.
Yeah, I agree. I see you, Jonathan. I'm going to read your comments. But I think that a lot of times we get wrapped into this whole, I wasn't feeling love and I didn't feel. Love is not a feeling. For me, love is not a feeling. Love has never been a feeling. Love is an action. Do I feel like doing it sometimes? No. But it's an action. It's something that I have to, if I'm in a relationship with somebody else, it's an action. It's something that I'm choosing to do. And I feel like we choose to love and we have our prospective people that we choose to do that with. And then there are others who we don't. Biblically, God says to love with the agape love. Agape love is not conditional. It is a forever love. It's a love that never ceases. It's the love that God had for us. No matter what we have done, it will never stop. Now, I will say, who we will show agape love to are our children.
Yes, we will.
But we will not extend that to our spouses or friends. It becomes, I want to say it's eros. Don't quote me on that. I have to look it up. But one of those loves are conditional. It's, if you do this for me, I'm going to love you this way. If you give me this, I'm going to give you that. It's very transactional.
Right.
That's not how we're supposed to love. So it shouldn't matter if your love tank is on empty or not. There are times when your love tank is on empty with your children, but you still do for them every day. You still go to work. When they call and say they need a coin, you still putting it in their bank account. So we have to learn, we have to get away from that. Well, she's not giving me this, so I can't give her that. That's that's not how it's supposed to be. It's I'm gonna love you whether you give me this or not. It's kind of how I feel about it. True, but do we allow God to flow through them? Yes, you should.
Okay, so I'm reading a book.
Wait, really quick.
Go ahead.
Do allow God to flow through them. And if you are torn down all day, you need someone to fill that love tank. All our conditions except agape. Okay, right. Okay, go ahead.
I'm reading a book because I am a little more reserved when it comes to affection than my husband. Like, Aaron is so affectionate. Grew up in a house where there was always a public display of affection. I did not grow up with that. It's a little freakish to me because I'd be like, whoa. I remember when I met the family and everybody kissed and hugged, and I was like, okay, are we done with that? Are we going to do this every time somebody walks into this room? It wasn't a norm for me, right? But it mattered to my husband. The way we showed love in my house is we sat down on the same couch, we shared a cover, and we watched a movie together. And that, you see me, I see you. All right, I see you. And it was, we knew
quality time.
We knew that it was love. It didn't necessarily have to be a hug or a kiss or a pat on the back or a rub on the head, right? But the thing that I learned in that was I chose to marry someone who is used to receiving and giving affection in this form. And when that doesn't happen for him, it feels like a form of rejection from me because I won't make the choice to meet his need. Am I getting better? I think I'm getting better at it. Like one of the things that the counselor had to tell me.
Aaron, don't answer that.
Don't answer that. Please don't embarrass me. I do feel like I'm getting better. Like sometimes but the one thing I had to be honest with him about was, I am a person whose thoughts go, 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 go. And when I would walk through the door, like, I made a rule to put my phone down, but I didn't make a rule to turn my mind off.
Yes.
So I would walk through the house and I would still have 50 million things going through my mind at the time that I see him and I know he sees me, but he's expecting for me to come over and kiss. And I'm really just like, hey, what up? I see you, buddy. And he's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? And so what I've had to do recently is learn to stop the thoughts so that I can be present in the moment that mattered to him. Right? But it's a choice and it takes time.
Yeah, it does.
I'm an only child. Like, I didn't have to come home and say hey to nobody. I said hey to my dolls. Right? So this whole idea of having to talk to people as soon as you walk through the door and all of that was like, whoo, a lot for me. Like, I went home to my dog Sunny and we just ate Doritos.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think everything, I mean, you're right. It is a choice. You choose to do it. And I think, yes, you absolutely, we have to stop worrying about what the other person is or not doing. You know, there has to be a time where you're just like, listen, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to show you. This is, you know.
Right.
And whether you reciprocate or give me that back, it's fine because eventually it will come back around and the other person will be like, he's doing this or she's doing this. You know, it's yes, does it feel like rejection? Yes. And I will say I am one of those people that people outside that are not close to me, their rejection doesn't sting for me because I can always be like, that was just, it's you, not me. It's you. You're the crazy one. We're good. But when I have those close to me, like a husband, a boyfriend, a best friend, the rejection stings a lot more. So when I am not getting something I think I'm worthy of,
right,
it's harder for me to just say, okay, it's you and not me. Because we're close, like we have a close-knit relationship.
Right.
And so I think, especially in marriage, because I'm a lot like Aaron, I'm physical touch all day long. So I need constant, hey, you know, like constant. And when you don't, then I start to feel that bit of rejection, like, why are you not touching me?
Right.
Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so I think we have to, when it comes to our spouses or children, we kind of have to give them the same grace that I've seen Jonathan type a couple times that we extend to others on the outside. Why are we so resistant to giving the people closest to us the grace that we extend to other people?
Ooh, let's talk about this.
Why are we so? That's a question for you guys.
Let's talk about that.
Why are we so resistant to giving them grace when we so freely give it to those that aren't closest to us?
Let me I saw Jonathan just ask, is it truly rejection or is it a misunderstanding? It depends on how it's displayed and its frequency.
It's probably both.
Here's the thing.
It's probably a
well,
tint of
and
both.
let me say, because if there's been a conversation about it and clarity has been rendered, and then the frequency continues, unless the person is honest about where they are and the steps they're trying to make to get there to the other person, it will feel like rejection, because I've expressed this to you, I've talked to you, but you're not being open and honest about what it's taking for you to render this service, or you know what I mean, or be present in this way for me. And so the lines of communication have to stay open. Like, I really, in my mind, like, I'm telling all my business. Like, in my mind, I would be like, I want to hug my husband, or I want to kiss my husband when I get home. And then I'd be on the road for an hour and a half. And by the time I got home, I don't want to talk to nobody. I want everybody to shut up. I want to turn my hearing aids off. I don't want the dog to breathe, because I've just been on the road for an hour and a half. I just want like 5 seconds to decompress. Like, can I go sit in the room for 2 minutes, decompress, and then come back out and we start with the hugs and the kisses, because I want it to be genuine. But right now, I'm on like 1 million from the traffic that I just sat in. Right. But I didn't know how to communicate that. It wasn't like when I first walked in that I don't want to be present, just give me like 90 seconds. Or maybe I should just sit in the car for 2 minutes.
I hear you. I do the same thing. So for me, and for me it's with the children. You said in your mind. For me it's with the children. When I have a long day at work, or I've been sitting in the car for 2 hours, don't ask me anything. I need the time. And Mark and I were talking about this the other day, why it takes me so long to get out of the car. And I think it's because I am mentally getting my mind right. Yes, that's what he said. That is just how you refill your tank. Yes, it takes me forever to get out of the car. And for the longest I was like, why do I do this? But I think it's because I'm mentally trying to get my mind together to be able to give to those that need for me when I walk through the door.
Right.
And let me just say, when people need something for you, your tank is not always going to be full. And sometimes you have to work on refilling your own tank. So how is it that you refill your tank? Because not everybody's going to pour into you.
So I'm in a kind of a introspective phase of life right now, and I'm doing a lot of kind of like building, because I felt like for me, I was becoming very reactionary. You know what I mean? And I was easily offended. I was irritable. I was very reactionary to things, and I had to take a minute to be like, what if I stopped doing that was sustaining me? And I noticed the biggest change when I was not getting up in the mornings and spending my time reading and writing and just setting and commanding my day and getting myself prepared for the day. Because I didn't prepare for the day, I had to react to the day.
Right.
And so you've got to own some of your reaction to the world. Like, if your tank is on empty, when are you going to go to the gas station? When are you going to pull out your own debit card? Put it in the cash thing, what is it called, credit card machine, and pay the fee.
Right.
How are you investing in your own tank?
And I will say, I think that when your tank is empty and you're not doing what you need to refill your tank, because not everyone's going to be there to refill your tank. Matter of fact, it's not everyone's job. That there goes that little self-worth thing. Like, stop wrapping your self-worth and thinking you need somebody else to refill the love or whatever else that you're lacking. I think that when you're full, you handle rejection better. You handle rejection better. Just kind of bringing it back. My question was, Why is it that we will extend grace to others, to people other than the ones closest to us?
And I want to answer that question while we're waiting on somebody to answer. Because me and Aaron actually had this conversation before. And the way that I came to the resolution is I think we take on this misconception that the people closest to us can handle us in every form. So we don't feel like we have to handle them the way we would handle somebody outside of our close-knit group. Like, we put on the very polished version of ourselves, you know what I mean? And when we get around the people who know us, like know us, we let all that down. We feel like we don't have to filter how we communicate with you. I don't have to filter how I handle you. I can handle you however, because you're obligated to love me. And it's like, no, like, you need to be even more cautious of how you handle those people. You need to take a minute and think about how that's going to impact them, because you said it earlier, the rejection that comes from the people closest to you cuts like a knife.
Yes.
It is brutal. It's like, you know where that tender spot is. You know how to punch them and how that's going to like be an assault on them. Like, you have to handle those people cautiously. Like, my husband said something to me, and it was an ultimate wake-up call, and he said, they get the best of you and we get what's left of you. I felt like an absolute failure in that moment, because I was like, the people who matter to me most feel like they're getting the breadcrumbs of me. Baby, that was a wake-up call that I needed, because I was like, these people at this job don't care if I get sick. They are not going to HEB.
Exactly.
They are not going to say, Mommy, are you feeling okay?
Nope,
and nobody's going to ask me. They're not making me pho. Thanks, Aaron. You know what I mean? So it's like,
that's so true, but a lot of people do it. We are so quick to put on for everybody else, and then when we get home, it's like, okay, you can have my scraps. Let's see. So Jonathan says
he's speaking that Louisiana talking. I don't,
because they should know better. That next line, Jonathan, I don't know what that says.
That thing hurts. Yeah. That's the English translation of what he just said.
Okay.
He's from Louisiana, people. Rito. Like, I don't even think anybody knows what that is. Is it a parish or is it a town? I don't know. But I wanted to talk about something before we get out of here. And it is fear being the byproduct of rejection. And how once you've been rejected, you become incredibly fearful and overly cautious of your interactions. And how you can sometimes suffer from arrested development because you don't grow past the place of offense. You're still the person from 5 years ago who was hurt in this area, because you feel like if you step on the other side of that thing, rejection is going to come at you again. And I really want to talk about that for a minute, because I think that I can speak for me personally. In fear of being rejected or not measuring up, there are some opportunities that I didn't take. There are some relationships that I didn't cultivate. There are some jobs I didn't go after, right? Because I automatically assumed that these people were going to reject me. I was not going to measure up, so I'm not even going to put a leg in the race.
Right.
Right? I almost didn't fool with you. Because I was like, she looks mean, and I'm fearful that she might tell me off, and I don't know that I want to deal with that. So sing, little lady, sing your little choir song, but you're mean, I don't want to deal with you, so praise Jesus. Right? That is a true story, y'all.
That is a true story. She did not, but that's another time. I think that a lot of us are met with fear. And a lot of times we won't do certain things for fear of rejection. And the thing is, you made a valid point. You said people won't step out because they're afraid to be rejected, or when they do step out, that they'll be rejected again. And the thing is, you will. You will be, there's going to come a time where you will step out and something will work for you, and then you'll step out again and you will be rejected. That's just life. And I think that we have to get past the fear of being rejected, because so many people in this world were told no. So many people before they got a yes. Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey. I mean, I can go down the line, and all these people were told no. Bill Gates starting his company, was told no, they didn't want to invest. And look at him now. It didn't stop him. You have to get over that fear, because there's so many blessings that you are giving up. And God can't take you where he needs you to go if you are afraid to take the first step.
I want to speak to something Jonathan just said. He said, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but sometimes it paralyzes me. And I was reading about that today, actually, and how it completely immobilizes you. You're stricken by it. But the beautiful thing that I found today in reading was that the fear that I'm feeling is because I'm taking on a burden that I don't have to take on.
Right.
Because I'm feeling like I've got to do this in my own strength, my own wisdom, and my own influence. And when I can take those things and put them back into the God who has scripted my success, I don't necessarily have to be reliant on my ability anymore. Now I get to put that weight and that burden on God's shoulders, who can't fail. He doesn't even have it in his character traits. He's all-knowing, all-sufficient. And so he has graced me to do whatever the tasks are before me today. But what he will, and I would say, when you feel that fear rising up in you, may it be a push to make you more dependent on God, instead of looking more on about what you can't do, or looking at how you can't accomplish this. Like, I feel like sometimes it's our thorn. Because I'm going to continue to prick you in this area, because if I remove it, you will think that you should get glory for what I'm doing through you. So I'm going to use this to keep you humble before me, because what is the byproduct of rejection? Pride. So I'm going to keep you humble. So if I have to make you have butterflies every time you're getting ready to step on stage, I'm going to do it. If I'm going to, every time I'm like, ooh, I'm going to miss the intro. But you've never prayed like you prayed when you were dependent on God to be your source. You never humbled yourself the way you humbled yourself until you realize, without his assistance, I'm not going to get this done. And I'm not rejected by him. I'm adopted by him. I just got free again. I'm not rejected by him. When I accepted him, and I learned that it was by grace that I have what I have, and that grace and mercy is renewed to me daily. The grace that I need to fulfill everything coming to me today has already been portioned.
Yes.
That was good, man. She told me I had 3 minutes, and y'all was about to. I felt my preach.
Yeah, she was going in.
I felt my preach coming.
Give y'all a whole message.
Listen,
without an offering.
So no, I need an offering. I'm gonna put my cash back at us. But listen, I always leave you with a journal prompt. And what I want you guys to do for me, please take these journal prompts seriously. Like, I really believe in the power of expression. If you don't like to write, then send yourself a voice memo, but you need to hear your thoughts outside of your own mind. And the one thing that I want you to write about this week is, what keeps me from fully accepting the person that I was called to be? What keeps me from fully accepting that version of me? Is it things that I haven't gotten over? Is it people that I can't let go of? Is it my own disbelief in myself? What is hindering you from being the person that you were fully called to be? And then once you identify those things, what are you going to do to make sure that you grow past this mindset? Because every day that you live beneath your potential is a day wasted.
Right.
And you are the only person who can fulfill your purpose on this earth. You are the only person who can say what you say, who can sing what you sing, who can write what you write, paint what you paint, design. Only you. And if you waste your life on the other side of fear because you don't feel that you measure up, you will have lived a whole life not really living.
Right.
So think about that, guys. I'm excited to see you guys online tonight. Thank you for chiming in. The commentary on Facebook was amazing. So if you didn't get it, go ahead and do the look back on that, you guys. It will be amazing. Okay? Go ahead, Shara. Wrap us up.
All right. So thank you guys for listening. We will be back not next Thursday, but the Thursday after that. Make sure you look at brunchofgirls.org, Jamila Hinkson's page, or blessedbeats.com.